Deep in the realms of the internet shopping site known as eBay lies a hidden precious diamond that many have overlooked. A true beast in nature, yet small in size, with a 16 megapixel micro four thirds sensor capable of recording 4K video up to 30 FPS, with the luxury of actually having a flip screen. Put your hands together for the Panasonic G7. Hello, and today I'm going to show you what I'm actually recording with. The Panasonic G7. Now I kind of want to skip all the more superficial specky bits, even though I love those. I kind of just want to really talk about one main thing, and that is the value of this camera, why this camera is so good for $500. Yes, that's all you're really paying for this, which enormously competes with my setup right here, which combined, if you got both these brand new, is actually around probably the $600 mark, which happens to be my Nikon D3300 with this Sigma 18-50. Of course, if you found both these, refurbished or used, this could be more like $400 or something like that. But this, I got this with the kit lens, the 14-42 kit lens, which I'll talk about in a second, and a lot of other stuff like memory cards, 2 extra batteries, and all that for about $520, which is just insane value. And why is this camera also so valuable though? Really one word: image quality. The actual, more specifically, video quality. It's a 16 megapixel micro four thirds sensor, so actual stills quality is good. I don't really want to get into stills though on this camera though, because that's what I got cameras like this for, and I'll continue to buy lots of DSLRs, especially older kind of pro DSLRs for stills. But this camera, I'm definitely going to plan on doing some awesome video work on. And what is so appealing about the video? Well, for $500 you can do 4K up to 30 frames a second at 100 megabits a second in an H.264 codec, which is by no means crazy. But that's the thing, it's at $500. You're enormously competing with cameras such as the D3300 or the Canon SL2. T7i is actually more expensive than this, and the G85 is out. Of course, it's the newer version of this camera, but it's not as cheap as this one is. That's still around, I looked at it, about maybe $700-800, whereas this is $500, going down to $400 on eBay, because just the body is $400 already. And that's just crazy value. Now, why I love this camera so much is the image quality. The 4K looks so freaking good. And I did a couple of comparison shots in a controlled environment with even lighting and all that. Both of them, both the D3300 I have here and this camera, can be sort of comparable. By the time they make it on YouTube, the difference is only subtle. But when you get into a complicated situation, like let's say the forest that's only so far away from my house, then the difference starts to really show. The D3300, the footage that this guy produced, well, it was crap, to say the least. It was soft, it looked out of focus, it was that bad. And I got it perfectly in focus. I did. I made sure when I was shooting the footage that I got this thing perfectly in focus. And it just didn't look how I'd want it to. But then I switched to this thing, and night and day difference. Oh man, this thing produces an image that is sharp, nice to look at, it's detailed. The 4K in general helps with the little details, but really what helps is the 100 megabit per second compression. It's not a huge bit rate for 4K. It really isn't. It really isn't. It's on the lower end, but that helps me actually, because then file sizes won't be the largest, biggest thing ever. But what they will be is they'll be plenty detailed enough, and by the time they make it on YouTube, if I'm compressing this onto a 1080 timeline, which is what I'm doing here too. Actually, though, I'm recording 1080 right now, but when I'm doing 4K, I just put that on a 1080 timeline, because that's what I want. I want a sharp 1080 image, not necessarily export to 4K, but just a nice sharp 1080 image, which this thing doesn't really do all that well anyway. It does a great job at that, and by the time it makes it on YouTube, it still looks better. Still looks better even when compressed down 1080. It looks sharp, looks nice, looks so much better. Doesn't it? Just that the thing, the video quality. I don't want to. It makes me not want to shoot video on this anymore because the quality is so much better on this camera. Another big help in just general with this camera is this. First of all, the flippy floppy tilty screen, and it's also a touch screen, and this is one of the best screens on a camera that I've used. It's quite comparable to Canon screens, and Canon has some great screens. I played with the T7i a little bit ago, if you've seen that video, and I like that screen a lot. And this screen feels just as nice as that. Now, a couple other things. In terms of the body itself, it's got a fairly plasticky body. It's on the side of plasticky, I will say that. But what it is the plasticiness contributes to one major thing, and that is the fact that this thing is so freaking light. I mean, I've been using this and this, and especially this compared to this, my 5D Mark I, which is just, oh man, that thing is heavy. It's like almost 900 grams alone for just the body, not even adding any glass on it, man. And this thing though, let's say, really, the D3300 on its own is a small DSLR. My hands are pretty average size, but I can fully engulf this thing. This is pretty small, and on its own it's light too. But then add this thing, and I got this thing for the better aperture, which just happens to be the Sigma 1850 2.8 to 4.5. You mate these together, and all of a sudden, it's now quite heavy. And it becomes a pain in the ass when trying to use for several hours while trying to film a football game. It becomes a pain in the ass when you're using something like a Steadicam, because all of a sudden this is so much heavier. But this camera, though, is really freaking light. And the 14 to 42 that I got with this thing, and I got it, normally I don't like kit lenses, normally I don't like them, but I got this one because for the range that this had, 14mm, which is the wide end in this thing, I couldn't really find anything that was kind of better value and cheaper than that. But I do have some Action glass that I ordered on the way. I've got some vintage prime lenses that are coming, and that's really the opening thing on this. This is a mirrorless Micro Four Thirds camera. You can adapt anything onto this thing somehow. It's just a world of adaptability. It's a huge advantage with this camera. And plus, the lens itself right now, it's better than most kit lenses on DSLRs, especially the horrible, awful excuse for a lens, which is the Canon 18 to 55mm kit lens. I hate that lens. Horrible focus ring, and this is still focused by wire, but it's much better. It's a lot smoother, a lot more easy, and with Panasonic's awesome focus assist tools like peaking, which makes me never want to go with a camera for video without peaking ever again. It's not that bad. And plus, this lens is tiny for the 14 to 42 zoom. Of course, Micro Four Thirds, you don't need to cover as much of the frame. It only needs to be a Micro Four Thirds lens. So, to give you an idea, this is a 46mm thread. That's what it has, 46mm thread on the front of this lens. So you only need small filters. Like, I have a variable ND for this thing for shooting in bright sunlight. So really just things like that just really help this camera be so powerful and strong. Now I could go on and on about viewfinders and buttons and all that. I will just say that ergonomics are good. The menu systems are, well, let's just say they're not. They're very good compared to menu systems like Sony's menus. And the battery life is good. It's all there's just, I could get into all of that, but really I just want to highlight how much value this camera has. If you're looking into getting into filmmaking, and you're, what camera should I buy? Should I buy this Nikon, this Canon, this entry-level DSLR? If you're looking at an entry-level DSLR for video, stop right there and then look at this thing, because for video alone this thing has so much power, and this can do decent stills. I just need to get some better lenses for stills, but for video this is so much better. It really is. So take a look at this thing before you look at other DSLRs, entry-level DSLRs to be more specific, for video. So yeah, so I've gotten asked multiple questions about what camera should I get. So yeah, if you're looking for video and some stills too, then definitely get this camera. It's definitely very good for that. Yeah, more lens and camera reviews coming in the future. Maybe I'll even do another one of this one, get more in depth. Yeah, I kind of just want to get this one out. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.